Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today really doing something interesting with photography. This is exciting. But we have with us Sarah Takako Skinner and Marc Raco. Sarah, Marc, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
We're thrilled to be with you, Devin.
Well, the thrill and privilege is all ours. What you're doing is really pretty amazing. You've started giving people who are struggling, who are having some life challenge, and giving them a camera and asking them to take pictures of hope. What a fascinating, fascinating project. Sarah, how did this get started?
Well, there's a long story and then there's a short story, but it originated from what propelled me is it started in 2006, but how that came to be was based on how I came into the world with a rare birth defect called gastroschisis, and I'm going to go through this pretty quick. But so that trauma, growing up, and then I went into art school, and I really wanted to understand what the nature of people's hope looked like after they've gone through trauma, adversity. And so I started it at Harborview Medical in Seattle. And that's where it started, and it did. It got some really interesting publicity with the Seattle Post-Intelligencer, and that really allowed me to say, hey, I'm actually onto something. People are really interested. And as an artist, it really helped feed not only my own questions about my the trauma that I experienced with my birth and all these other issues that I was going through with the body and all this stuff that was caused from that. And so it was very nurturing for me, and what I also found, it was extremely nurturing for the people involved. So then throughout my travels after college and whatnot, I got to LA and started to dive a little bit further into it. And I knew that this was the right thing to do. And so when I moved to New York, and Marc and I met, and we were sharing these ideas and these thoughts and these stories, and being able to realize that, collaborating his skills and my skill sets could really be a great opportunity to develop this into so much bigger than a project, into a movement, and where we can inspire and thousands, hundreds, millions, whatever, and then, but more importantly, give the people that need to be heard a voice, a
Yeah,
photo,
very,
picture.
very
Yeah.
inspiring, really inspiring work. Marc, how did you get involved in this? Sarah's the photographer. So what do you bring to the party?
Well, one of the things I've noticed in interacting with a lot of creative people is the thing that makes them successful is the ability to do what they do best. And often paired with someone that complements their skills in other areas, between the two of you, 1 + 1 = 3. Sarah and I met through a kind of a business collective. We were trying to grow our businesses and our ability to connect with people. And this goes to what I think is amazing about not just Sarah, but what she's created, Devin. Uh, I've been searching for something that I could look back on when I'm hopefully 100 years old and say, at least I did that. That something was amazing in my life. Sarah had been on a journey and has been on a journey that, at least from my perspective, was about something extraordinary, and that was to understand, almost like a holy grail, the nature and power of hope, and to see if she could understand how people looked at the world when they were filled with hope or when they were without it, and then to somehow create that from a intangible to something tangible, a photograph, evidence of almost the other side, almost seeing it through their eyes, and collect that data and that information, and then for it to be so artful. I realized that she was onto something just literally extraordinary, and I felt like I really want to be a part of that, but I didn't know how. And then she just happened to have a need to create a video to help showcase what she was doing, encapsulate it, and that went directly to one of my big skill sets as a filmmaker. and that's how it was. And then, and as Sarah alluded to, and we've often stated, we kind of filled each other's gaps. She had something I needed creatively and professionally, and I could offer her something, and together, one of the things that was sort of amazing, though, is that I didn't go in it thinking we were going to try to change the world or anything along those lines. It was just about, this thing was cool, let's see how far we can take it. And by putting it in front, Devin, of influencers and notable people and people with passion and other change makers and people in social impact, and then just regular, Joes and Marys all over the place, we found so consistently that they are communicating to us that what Sarah's onto and what we're trying to turn this into, what we are turning it into, the direction it's taking and we're developing, has the real possibility for significant social impact, and it can be a catalyst for change and actually have real therapeutic possibilities in mental health. And forgive me for going on here, but I guess the exuberance and excitement that you see in me is how I feel about when I reflect on the way other people have reacted to this story when we share it with them. And I guess to sum this up, what excited me and what's motivated me is the fact that time after time, every time we share it, I'm recharged and realize what we're doing, what Sarah started, and what we're doing together is important.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Now, Sarah, tell us a little bit about the process. I'm curious about the camera that you give people and the process you use to figure out how to capture what they're capturing and to represent that finally outside the camera.
The process, the unique part about the process is the camera is a Holga camera. So it's a plastic, cheap film camera that does 120 size film. So basically, it's just a click of a button, and so there's a little bit of a combination of me helping and teaching them, and then them taking those skills and using that camera. But the part about that camera that makes this so unique and this project so unique is the nature of it is that you have to still roll the film, and it can take multiple and triple exposures, and it still leaks a lot of light because of the plastic, and it's just not sealed properly, which is a good thing. And then it also has a lot of vignetting, so it becomes very ethereal, very surreal, and the person using the camera can use it in so many profound ways that goes beyond literal, and it allows people to take these photographs that are really representative and non-subjective to what's going on inside of them, and it allows the viewer who's looking at these images to not look at it from a literal point of view, not as like that's a tree. It's, hey, that's a tree mixed with a war veteran's self-portrait, and that combination. So it allows the viewer to also reflect in a non-literal way, and it allows the person taking a photograph express themselves in ways that they probably don't really know how to communicate. And so to being able to use this sort of fine art, ethereal, very, very toy, non-threatening camera, I think is a really beautiful combination to express what hope is and allow people to see it from a more of a fine art perspective and less than somebody took it from a digital camera.
Right, right. So Marc, how are you sharing these beautiful photos that people are creating?
Well, in answering that, allow me to add on to what Sarah just mentioned, because I think it relates. One of the things that Sarah mentioned that really caught my attention, this is months into the working on it together, and all of a sudden I was like, holy cow, I hadn't thought of it that way. What's happening is by asking people to look for hope and photograph it on this easy-to-use camera that even a 7-year-old can use, and because they have, anyone can use it. It's kind of giving them this portal, this mechanism to a permission, if you will, a plan to go look for hope. And what ends up happening is this just exquisite self-portrait in a way that you don't usually see, a portrait really from the inside, seeing through their eyes. And then you match that with the fact, and I hope I'm not getting ahead of you here, Sarah, but you match that with the fact that Sarah takes this extraordinary portrait from the outside of that person, that and you put that portrait from the inside and the portrait on the outside together, and what you end up with is this incredible story. Mix that with the person's actual real story about perhaps their compelling story of adversity, or perhaps the way that we're able to see hope through their eyes because of the way they may be a leader of hope, or they may be an inspiring person. We can see the world through their eyes in the spirit of hope. Either end of that spectrum, we end up with this wonderful story. And so the way that we're sharing this is a few ways. We've done a gallery exhibit as part of Social Innovation Week in New York City. Of course, through our own website, hopeisproject.com. We've been writing a series of articles for a social consciousness magazine, a social impact magazine, a Conscious magazine, and featuring some photographs along with the stories and connecting them to the power and nature of hope through each article. And we've been working in tandem with organizations, collaborating with, let's say, human service organizations, educational organizations, to help them explore hope through their own platform or their own organization or their own path. And then those pictures can be displayed in ways through the mechanisms and the communication resources that they have. But one of the other things that we have planned that could be the biggest way to share this is our plan to curate and create what we believe will be the largest digital art show or display exhibit in human history by connecting at least 50 cities across the United States with projections of hope on the side of buildings in each of these respective cities simultaneously, so the country is effectively holding hands as a beacon of hope, a spirit of hope, a sign to the rest of the world that we have the power by collaborating together.
Yeah, that's a beautiful plan. Beautiful plan. Now, Sarah, I want to just ask you, and I'll ask you too, Marc, some quick couple of personal insights. But Sarah, you've really become a role model to many. You're well known in the art world, and certainly have achieved some fame, if not at least a very well-regarded reputation. Who is the person that you look up to? Who inspires you as a role model?
My really dear friend, Drew Faithful. Is a recent story that we did with the Hope Is Project, and I met Drew about a year ago, and so Drew is transgender, and he was born a woman and is transitioning into a man, and I met him before the testosterone, and really heard his story, and it was so compelling and so moving and rough. It was rough what he went through growing up and not understanding the identity that he was feeling and not being able to be accepted by this family, as well as trauma and abuse that he experienced undergoing all of these feelings. And so when I met him, we did a really impactful and powerful photo shoot. Really opened up a lot of things for Drew and showed him that he could be loved and appreciated and acknowledged through not only his and I's reaction or interaction, but also through the photographs that were shown afterwards, and also the posting of his story in conjunction with those photographs. The overwhelming response of positivity from people all over the world was so important for Drew, and it really gave him the courage to say, I'm acknowledged, I am loved, and I am accepted. And so
Boy,
he,
that's such a powerful message to receive, isn't it?
yeah, to get all of that validation that he is loved, accepted, and acknowledged. And at this point now, he's going through his testosterone, and he's made some massive physical changes. And I'm so proud of him for standing up for what he believed in, going against his family and whatnot, and saying, "This is what I believe, and this is what I'm going to do."
Yeah.
And I just admire him more than anybody else right now.
That is a powerful story. Marc, what about you? Have you got someone that you look up to?
Well, it's funny. The first person that came to my mind, and this isn't going to be the person, but was someone that we also told the story of through the Hope Is Project, which is Captain James Von Tock, who's a retired Army captain and a true real-life war hero, because despite his considerable injuries and the fact that he has to take more than 20 pills a day to stay even alive, he has dedicated the rest of his life to inspiring other veterans, and he's an amazing hero. But I think the person I'd like to point to is someone who was our most recent subject, which is Dr. Carmen Ortiz Hendricks, who is a pioneer of social work, and she is the dean at the Wurzweiler School of Social Work at Yeshiva University in New York City. And Dr. Hendricks, the reason that I would say she's someone I look up to is a lot of people don't know this, but although she's a social work pioneer and a leader in social work for the Latino community, she largely taught herself to become an expert in the Latino area. Even though she's a Latina, she ended up not actually having that cultural base to become an expert in that area, and she taught herself and became so pointed to as an expert. And the reason that she's a hero to me is not that she became a social work pioneer and dedicated her life to serving others and teaching others to serve others, but for the last year she's been battling cancer. And unfortunately, at the moment we're speaking, it appears that she may be in her last moments. We're very sad to say. But yes, but she, about a couple of months ago or so, and we just published this about 4 weeks ago, she was courageous enough, even though she's actually quite a private person, despite her wide reputation, she was courageous to share her story, not just her life story and her career path and her vision in social work and hope, but also her personal story of learning that she had a terminal illness and her fight against it and what it was like to experience that from the other side, not as a social worker, but as someone who needed a social worker. And to share that story and then to go back to work, even as she's sick as a dog and fighting to even stand up and be there to inspire others, and then to be willing to share that story publicly through the Hope Is Project and Conscious Magazine, and to work with Sarah photographically, and when she wasn't necessarily looking the strongest she had ever, and allowing us to share that story, to me, that's selflessness. After a career and life of selflessness, and then the last thing she's known for is to share an inspiration of hope.
Yeah,
that really touches
me. An inspiring story. I appreciate you sharing her example, because that really is powerful. Let me ask you quickly. We just have another minute, but Sarah, why do you care about people? I understand why people should be cared about. So I'm not asking why people matter, why you should care about these people who are facing adversity. What I want to understand is, what was your personal connection to this? What was your personal draw to it? Why did you feel compelled to act?
I am deeply moved by people, and I learned so much. Perhaps it's selfish, but I learned so much about myself when I can immerse myself in people's lives. I am alive because of hope. And when I can immerse myself in these people's lives and learn what their stories are, I learn about myself. And together it's this cyclical bearing of hope and inspiration for both of us. Is that?
Yeah, so you say you're alive because of hope. Was there a point in time where that was in some way more literally or acutely true? Was there a story there?
I've battled depression for a long time, and what gets me out is connecting with people, giving back to people, sharing stories with people, and believing in myself. And it's not always easy when you're getting kicked down over and over, but it's the people that I connect with in their stories that that changes everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad you found hope in the Hope Is Project, because it really is inspiring to others. Marc, what about you? Why did you feel compelled to act in this case? I get that people matter. I get that people are important, but why did you feel you needed to get involved?
I'll tell you two things, and quite quickly I can get to the point. The first is, this is one of the most extraordinary examples I've ever seen of art and purpose being married. I'm a creative person at heart. I always have been. I went to film school. I'm an actor, and I've sought out to be a creative entrepreneur, to be able to build something that can actually impact people's lives, as we literally have already seen that happen with Drew as an example, the person that Sarah was referring to, and other people. We've literally had them tell us that it changed their lives, and we haven't even barely started. The jaw-dropping reaction we see from people, every single person. I'm going to answer it this way. Sarah was it was pointed out to her that just the existence of this project, just the fact that she's alive telling this story, and now I've joined forces with her, that alone changes people's lives. Just the existence of it. If we can add artfulness to that and go somewhere with that, why wouldn't you, if you're a creative person, why wouldn't you want that to matter? If you could be a painter and you knew that every painting you painted might save someone's life or change their life or better the world, how would that not motivate you? And the other thing is, real quickly, I see the way people react to Sarah. I've never really said this to you, Sarah, personally, but I watch the way people react to you, the way your friends circle and gravitate around you, the way you impact people. And it's very, very motivating and touching to be able to be in orbit around someone who affects people that way. And it can't help but impact your own life.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I want to thank both of you for taking the time to be with us. Sarah, quickly tell us how we can learn more about the Hope Is Project.
You can go on to www.hopeisproject.com. We also on Facebook, and also on Twitter under Hope Is. Correct, Marc? It's Hope Is.
Yep, it's Hope Is Project on social media, so it's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Hope Is Project.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you both for taking the time to be with us and wish you every success with growing this highly impactful program to help people find hope.
Thank you very much, Devin. And I invite everyone to follow us. If you go to hopeisproject.com and sign up to follow along with what we're doing, you'll see that we're about to do some extraordinary things.
Wonderful.
We are. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, Devin.
Thanks, Devin.
Thank you. Let's do some good.